Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu used his annual address to the United Nations General Assembly to speak out against the dangers that Iran poses to world stability. The premier's central message was that Israel will not tolerate an Iranian military presence next to its northern borders, which would not only endanger the Jewish state but the entire region. Jerusalem is concerned that Tehran is taking advantage of the power vacuum in war-torn Syria to open a second front against Israel alongside its Shiite Islamist ally, the Hezbollah terror group in Lebanon. Netanyahu has repeatedly stressed that his government will take whatever action is necessary to prevent the radical Islamic Republic from establishing a military infrastructure within Israel's proximity. In his 2015 address, Netanyahu held a dramatic 44-second pause to underscore his disappointment that there was nothing but deafening silence from the UN in response to multiple threats from Iran's theocratic and military leaders to annihilate Israel.
Israel and Mexico updated the free trade agreement that they signed in the year 2000 during Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's historic visit to Mexico this past week. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto announced that his country has accepted the offer by Israel and the United States to develop Central America. The agreement is aimed at encouraging investment in the so-called Northern Triangle states of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras to help stem the flow of migration of asylum seekers into the U.S. Meanwhile, the Jewish Agency for Israel is on the ground in Mexico, helping communities recover from the devastating effects of the 8.1 magnitude earthquake that left 96 people dead. The Israeli volunteers are distributing urgently required parcels of food, clean water, and early childhood packages, which contain diapers, milk substitutes, and other necessities. Israeli doctors are also treating injured residents, including many children.
Meanwhile, the Israeli Zaka search and rescue team working in Texas to help those hard hit by Hurricane Harvey has witnessed what many believe to be a miracle. The Israelis were assisting in cleanup efforts at the flooded home of Andran Penn at the request of his pastor. They discovered the near destruction of everything in the house, with the exception of his library of Jewish texts and Bibles. The Houston resident said he was reading the books in hope of gaining a better understanding of the Jewish people as part of his mission to seek a greater cohesion between the Jewish and Christian communities.
Likud Knesset member Yehuda Glick has appealed to U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman for help in securing the release of an Arab resident of Hebron who was arrested by Palestinian Authority security forces. Mohammed Jabbar was taken into custody just days after hosting the Israeli parliamentarian at his home to celebrate the recent Eid al-Adha Muslim holiday. PA officials have confirmed the arrest but refused to reveal any further information. Glick describes Jabbar as truly a man of peace and coexistence, and he says that his detention proves that Ramallah is not interested in any dialogue or normalized ties with Jerusalem. The arrest comes as more attention is being paid to the plight of Arabs who have been tortured by the Palestinian Authority. Israel is fighting on their behalf, and in fact, a Jerusalem court recently ruled that Arab victims can sue Ramallah for damages through the Israeli justice system. But attorneys for the plaintiffs are reporting now that international human rights organizations are refusing to help move the cases forward. They say that every single NGO that they approached for help in acquiring medical reports needed to determine the extent of the victims' injuries turned them away, and that the organizations were only interested in offering assistance if the alleged violations were committed by Israel, but not the Palestinians.
There's a growing sense of optimism in Israel following the denunciation by Bahrain's king, Hamad bin Isa al Khalifa, of the Arab boycott against the Jewish state. The head of the Persian Gulf Muslim nation also announced that his subjects are free to visit Israel, as he signed a declaration rejecting religious hatred and violence. The breakthrough events took place during a multi-denominational gathering at the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles. The Mideast monarch said he has plans to open a museum of religious tolerance on the island nation, which has a tiny Jewish population of around 40 residents.
Israel has announced that it's making enormous strides toward landing the Jewish state's first spacecraft on the moon. The Space IL firm already made history in 2015 by being the first to enter the Google Lunar X Prize competition. So far, the base structure has already been completed, and the 8 engines used to power the spacecraft have been assembled and are raring to go. Israel Aerospace Industries will now conduct comprehensive testing to ensure that the components have been properly integrated. The blue and white launch is expected to take place in the coming year as part of the international race to be the first nation to land an unmanned spaceship on the moon.
The Israeli Defense Ministry has unveiled some of the most sophisticated technology projects now in advanced operational stages by its Research and Development Division. Video footage shows the testing of an armed sniper drone, as well as an unmanned aircraft designed to help ground forces move equipment. The ministry also revealed the production of a tank version of the F-35 stealth bomber, which will be able to totally evade detection by radar. Only 2 crew members are needed to man this invisible vehicle, which will be outfitted with an active protection system and have the capability of providing protection for other tanks from enemy fire.
The Jewish people will begin observance of the Day of Atonement this week on the evening of October 20th. Yom Kippur is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, and it's marked by fasting and praying for forgiveness. During the 10 days leading up to Yom Kippur, Jews repent and request absolution for any wrongdoing from others, so that by the Day of Atonement, they will be humbled to ask forgiveness from God. We at Israel Now News wish all of our viewers a very happy New Year and pray that God will protect Israel.
And we encourage you to continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. We're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is former Minister Gideon Sa'ar. Gideon, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Gideon, there's a lot of talk about you in the media. You've just did your political comeback, and now you're getting things ready to get back into politics. Why have you decided to come back to the political field in Israel?
All my life I protected the rights of the Jewish people and the battle over our interests here, over our rights in this land. This is what I did for almost 20 years. I took a little break to be with my family. It was a great time, but now it's the time to get back to the job.
Yeah, your personal story is inspiring. Your family actually came from South America, and you were born here in Israel and grew up to be one of the leading, if not the leading politician in Israel today. Why is it so important for someone who, came from such an incredible background to get involved in Israeli politics?
What my family did and what a lot of the families in this country did is fulfilling the prophet of returning to Zion. So for us, for our generation, it is very important to protect it and to give what we got from our parents to the next generation, to pass the torch. And in this part of the world, you don't get any presents for free. You need to battle and to protect your rights and to be very strong in order to confront your enemies.
You're one of the faces of the leading Likud party. You've always been with the Likud party. Why the Likud party?
The Likud is the political framework that protects the rights of the Jews over this country according to our historical heritage, to the Bible, to our long beliefs and history. So it is very natural for anyone with a national point of view to be in the Likud in this country.
Your good friend, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is the leader of the Likud party, but all the polls say that if he were to resign, you would be the leader of the Likud party and lead this country. What does that mean to someone that you could one day, most probably, be the Prime Minister of the State of Israel?
First of all, we have a Prime Minister, and a Prime Minister that protects our rights and our interests, and as long as he serves our country, we support him naturally. I don't pay attention so much to the polls. I'm really concentrate on working, doing things for the public, and when the time will be right, I will put my candidacy, but we have a tradition in our party of supporting our leaders.
You're a very serious politician. You take things very seriously. You also, though, have a biblical side to you. You're a person who believes in the Bible, believes in the Torah. How much of your beliefs in the Bible affects actual policy in Israel?
First of all, I'm a son of a teacher teaching Bible, taught Bible in the past, and the father of a daughter who also is a teacher for Bible. So it is something that I grew up on, and of course it is the basic element in our worldview, in our heritage, in the way we see ourselves in this country. It's not something that belongs to the past, and we feel privileged to be in a generation that saw the fulfillment of the prophecies of returning to Zion. And that puts responsibility over our shoulders to keep what we got and to pass it on to the next generation in a better condition.
Yeah, you just mentioned that you took a break from politics to be with your family. You're someone who really cares about family a lot. How much does family values impact some of the issues that you take seriously?
I think it is very important. I think family is the core of society. I think it is very important to invest in family, and maybe for anyone who is in public service, which is very hard to combine between your duty and your responsibility to the family and your public duty, to do, before you speak about family values and how much it is important, to do what you need to do towards your family.
You're someone who has spoken out a lot on some of the security issues here in Israel. As the former Minister of Interior and former Minister of Education, you were part of the Security Council. What do you think is the biggest threat to Israel's security today?
No doubt Iran. Iran is possessing a threat with different dimensions. These days, Iran is working very hard in order to change reality in Syria, in order to change reality in Lebanon. They are now working to have factories on the soil of Lebanon in order to bring the Hezbollah the opportunity to produce long and accurate missiles in order to hit Israel in a very severe way. They are also working in order to get their forces closer to our Syrian border in the Golan Heights, and we must draw red lines here in order to avoid Iran starting new threats towards Israel. Of course, there is the biggest issue of their nuclear ambitions. It is now freeze to the time of the agreement, but they brought new challenges, and we must confront the new challenges they are bringing.
Gideon, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
My message is to all believers, please help us stand by Israel, protecting its rights, because you know it is something that you believe in, and it is very important in the world to have an active friends to protect our rights. We are a very small nation with a long history, but with a lot of friends around the world, and we need their support.
Thank you, Gideon, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Keren Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, you will witness the fulfillment of biblical prophecy through the gathering of the exiles. God bless you from Jerusalem.
אני כל כך קשורה לישראל, שלא משנה איזה תחרות אני נוסעת קטנה, גדולה, כל פעם שאני רואה דגל ישראל זה עושה לי צמרמורת בגוף. אולימפיאדה זה חלום של כל ספורטאי, אני חושבת. איך שנכנסנו לאולימפיאדה, לכפר אולימפי, ראינו הספורטאים הכי טובים שיש, באמת, כאילו, מכל העולם, אמרנו, וואו, גם אנחנו ביניהם. אין לי מדינה אחרת. זה הבית שלי.
העלייה לישראל היא עוזרת להגשים לי את החלומות שלי, היא עוזרת לממש את השאיפות שלי ואת הפוטנציאל שלי כאומן. למרות שהמשפחה שלי היא משפחה יהודית, עד גיל 14 בערך לא היה לי שמץ של מושג מה זה להיות יהודי, חוץ מזה שזה לא הנושא שכדאי לדבר עליו בקרב החברים ובבית ספר ובמקומות ציבוריים בכלל. לא פחדתי לעלות כי ידעתי שאני לא אהיה לבד. לא פחדתי לעלות כי ידעתי שלמרות שאני עוזב את הבית והמשפחה שלי לא תהיה איתי, אבל יהיה מאחוריי גב.
If you've taken all the messages and all the education that we received, which come as no surprise of my desire to establish and live a life in Israel, I still see myself as an Oleh Hadash or new immigrant. My current role at Bank Leumi, which allows me to act as an ambassador both for the bank and for the State of Israel, makes me feel like I've come full circle. We have a people who, for the past 60 years, despite challenges, despite hardships, despite a war every decade, continue to succeed on an international scale. This is a land of modern-day heroes.
הגעתי מטרנסילבניה, ברומניה, הייתי בן 14. כאן ראיתי פעם ראשונה חיבור בראייתי מדהים בין השורשים שלנו, תורת ישראל, עם ישראל וארץ ישראל. כל אחד מכם כאן יכול להגיע, כי נותנים לו את ההזדמנות, הרבה בזכות קרן היסוד והתרומות שאנשים טובים נותנים, להתחנך, לגדול ולהיות יום אחד מן הימים רופא, פרופסור באוניברסיטה, רב, מדען או אלוף בצה"ל. בלעדיכם התורמים היה קשה למדינת ישראל להתמודד עם האתגר הזה ולהבטיח שאנחנו לאורך זמן נממש את החלום שלנו להקים מדינה בטוחה ובית לעם היהודי.
The Aliyah is the new blood that have to be constantly injected to make us better people. And in order to make us better people, we need Aliyah.
The majority of Israelis, in one way or the other, are either Olim themselves or descendants of Olim. And this is the power of the state. It's a major force.
Come join Keren HaYesod in fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
The intention of the United Nations Human Rights Council to compile and release a list of foreign companies doing business with Israeli companies in Judea and Samaria and in the Golan Heights is nothing less than a boycott, and it is nothing less than anti-Semitic. There are 200 territorial disputes throughout the world, and the UN Human Rights Council has singled out one dispute, Israel and the Palestinians, and has singled out one party to that dispute, the party of the Jewish state, and has chosen to single out companies that are doing business with Jewish companies. And we know that when Jews are singled out and when their businesses are targeted, we've seen all that before in Nazi Germany of the 1930s. That is anti-Semitism. And it's a type of boycott, because if companies are discouraged by being shamed, as they call it, for having engaged in business with Jewish companies in Judea and Samaria, then they will be reluctant to do that in the future. And it'll put economic pressure on Israel, which is its intention. Its intention is not to bring about a better peace arrangement, but in many ways to destroy Israel's economy and to destroy the Jewish state entirely. The truly evil nature of this shaming operation by the UN Human Rights Council is manifested on the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights does not contain a single Palestinian. There is no Syria anymore for which Israel could possibly trade Golan territory for peace. The singling out of Israel on the Golan Heights, the shaming of countries who do business with Israeli companies on the Golan Heights has one purpose only. That is to defame the state of Israel, to weaken us economically, and by so weakening us economically, to impair our security, and ultimately to destroy the Jewish state.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Israel. It is the heart of the Middle East, the most important country in all of human history, and the single most influential place that's impacted your life. It was the home of the prophets, the location that once held the Holy of Holies, and the birthplace of the Gospels. The connection between this land and your heart is undeniable, but you can also be a blessing to this nation by partnering with the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. Now is an exciting time to be a part of what God is doing in Israel. Biblical prophecy is being fulfilled before our eyes. The Jewish people are returning to their homeland from the four corners of the earth, and life has returned to the land itself. And the Holy Spirit has been moving on the heart of Christians, just like you, to be a part, and ICEJ has been there. For more than 35 years, ICEJ has been the direct connection to the land of Israel for Christians all around the world. And together, we are helping the needy, providing shelter for Holocaust survivors, integrating new immigrants, supporting minorities, mentoring youth at risk, and have actively helped 120,000 Jews come home to Israel. These are just a few of the people groups ICEJ is impacting. And with a reach of over 170 nations, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has become a leading voice of Christian support and friendship to the Jewish people. So get involved and be a blessing to the nation and the people of Israel. The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. Your embassy, your voice. Join us today.
God commanded the Jewish people to come 3 times a year here to Jerusalem to celebrate the great pilgrim feasts. And He told the people of Israel, when they come to the city of Jerusalem, into the presence of God, not to appear empty-handed. 2,000 years ago, not far from here, we are here at the southern steps of the Temple Mount. Jesus was inside the temple compound and watching people how they were giving towards the ministry of the temple. And I can imagine the scene how the disciples were sitting with Jesus, and one of the disciples made a comment about a particular large contribution, and maybe even Peter replied, he said, well, this man should have given more because he is a very wealthy money changer here in the temple. But then Jesus says, did you watch this apparently insignificant woman? And Judas, who was the treasurer, he said, yes, of course, I watched her. She was giving nothing, just those 2 little copper coins. And Jesus said, this woman gave more than anybody else, because what she was giving was everything that she had. The Bible doesn't tell us, interestingly, what happened to this woman. But we read another story in the Bible from the story of Elijah in 1 Kings 17. There was an equally poor widow which was just preparing literally the very last meal for her family, and Elijah asked her to feed her. As a step of faith, she gave this very last meal to the man of God, and from that moment on, a blessing was released over her life. The flour in her pot and the oil in her jar would never cease flowing from that moment on. God's blessing was resting over her because Jesus was watching her. The heaven was watching her as she was giving everything what she could. And I want to encourage you this year at the Feast of Tabernacles to consider a most generous gift. Whatever you are able to do, I guarantee you God is watching you. Jesus is watching you as you are blessing the people of Israel, as you bless God's work here in the Holy Land. May the Lord bless you richly as you are giving your generous offering at this year's Feast of Tabernacles.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.